Hello, and welcome to ASUG Executive Briefing. I am David Wascom, Senior Vice President of Executive Programs here at ASUG, and it is my pleasure to host this program for our executive community. With ASUG Executive Briefings, we are building a digital library of content designed to help address the biggest challenges and opportunities the community faces today. As an SAP customer, understanding RISE with SAP is critical for you to effectively navigate your modernization journey with SAP technology. In today's session, I'm joined by Henrik Wagner, the RISE with SAP practice lead from Lemongrass Consulting. Henrik will share what he is seeing as customers evaluate, adopt, and implement RISE with SAP and provide some great tips for you to help you on your RISE journey. Okay, welcome to today's executive briefing. It is my pleasure to bring Henrik Wagner to the virtual stage today. Henrik is the Senior Vice President for Lemongrass Consulting and manages their SAP RISE with SAP practice. Welcome to the session today, Henrik.
Thank you very much, Dave. Always enjoyed working with ASUG over the years with you and Jeff Scott and everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about this topic around RISE.
Fantastic. Well, before we jump into that, why don't you give us kind of a real quick tour of Lemongrass and who you and your organization are?
Yeah, no, I've been with Lemongrass for 2 years, but our company was originally started out of Europe in 2009, and we really set out the idea of moving SAP to cloud. And we started with AWS. So I would say we were very focused on cloud native automation and cloud native tool sets, and very early on had some success and use cases around AWS with SAP workload. That's all we do. We do it mostly for large, complex enterprises, even in the early days. And as you can imagine now, in the last couple of years, more and more of these complex large enterprise customers are looking at cloud, looking at RISE. But 3 years ago, we expanded into Google and Azure as well. So right now, we deliver services, assessment services, migration services, automation, operate, manage services, and innovation services across AWS, Azure, and Google. And also, in the last couple of years, we've delivered RISE services. We actually have a RISE customer that we delivered out of Australia, mining company called Yancoal that we did together with an SI, and they're running S4 on AWS in a RISE package. There's a case study on our website. But more recently, I've moved into the role to be 100% focused on SAP RISE, working with SAP, hyperscalers, and ASUG and customer bases around understanding and kind of demystifying what it means to deploy RISE and S4 with cloud for large, complex customers.
Fantastic. And obviously your experience and your role will ideally suit you to be able to help answer some of the questions around the idea of, understanding the advantages and challenges of the RISE with SAP program. This has been, go ahead.
I was going to say, I missed that on the introduction. Part of those conversations, I've been very fortunate to be part of the SAP mentor community over the last 7-8 years. And part of those conversations with ASUG and SAP mentor and the board members of SAP has been around the adoption and what needs to be done and how do you make it easier for customer to adopt the RISE framework, right? So that SAP mentor thing has been tremendously helpful both for me and hopefully back to SAP as well.
Fantastic. So RISE with SAP as a program from SAP has been around a little longer than 2 years now. Came out early in 2022, and it has been top of mind. Obviously, if you're having a conversation with someone from SAP, it's not an if thing, it's a when, as far as when the SAP RISE with SAP conversation will come up. What I'm curious is to get your perspective of how customers have seen RISE, and frankly, how customers' perception as RISE have changed over the last 2+ years.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We noticed very early when RISE was first launched that it was a kind of early adopters of S4, early adopters around RISE was mostly in the mid-market. Of course, there were some large enterprises that adopted RISE and S4, but mostly in the mid-market, and mostly was around greenfield S4 deployment. It might have been existing that in the customizations they have, or brownfield migration, but mostly in the mid-market. Since we at Lemongrass mostly work with enterprise customers, we didn't see, we had that one deployment I mentioned on Yancoal down in Australia, but what we've seen different in the last 6 to 9 months is our existing large enterprise customers, the ones that we're managing OSDB basis on AWS and Azure and Google, they're telling us it's inevitable that they're going to go S4 on RISE. Some of them are already in S4, but they're going to change the commercial structure to a RISE commercial platform. right, on the same hyperscaler, most likely that they're already on. And as well as our large new customer pursuits that we're talking to and be meeting at the conferences and have online meeting or workshops with, they're telling us, hey, we were thinking, a year ago that we were going to go S4 and we're going to go to AWS, Azure, and Google, but we've sat down and really understood where SAP's direction is, and we're really considering, and if we don't move it now, we will inevitably move SAP to S4 and RISE. So why not start sooner? So that's a big shift we've seen both on existing customer and in new customer pursuits, which have changed our perspective and frankly my role to be able to get ahead of that and help these customers through that journey.
It's interesting. You used the term inevitable a couple of times, and I hear from customers pretty regularly this idea of inevitability. And I also hear, unfortunately, it's kind of a companion to that. Well, customers will say, I'm a RISE customer because I have to be, not because I want to be. And so one of the reasons that we're having this conversation today is so that we can put a more positive outcome on it for customers, right? What I tell ASUG Executive Exchange members all the time is look at this conversion to RISE as kind of a once in a generation contracting opportunity where you have some power and leverage that maybe you don't normally have. And so I want to kind of get your perspective by sort of digging into, I'll call it the different phases of the RISE journey, right? So kind of phase one is that discovery up to contracting around RISE. And so what are some of the big challenges that you see customers encountering when they're exploring RISE with SAP for their organization?
Yeah, and again, we deal with large existing enterprise customers that have quite a bit of a complexity that might have, as a result of merger and acquisitions. And I think they have understood how they run the SAP platform today, whether it's hosted or they're in cloud already, whether they're on ECC still, or they're on Suite on HANA, or maybe they're already on S4. They have a kind of an operating model. And now they're saying, okay, we're going to go to this optimized new operating model and RISE with a set of SAP resources from SAP ECS, the Enterprise Computing Services, and partner resources. This is a shift. First, they then say, okay, I need a business case for that change. Then comes kind of what's the roadmap? How do I get there? Where am I at and how do I get there? What's the migration path? What's the commercial construct that I can go negotiate? But most importantly that we see and where we're helping our customers, what does the new operating model look like? And how do I make sure I integrate into that new operating model to take the most advantage of the innovation and capability that the RISE platform offers? So we have an advisory offering, a strategic advisory offering that we go in just for a month or two. I know some of the large SIs do longer engagement, like this phase 0 may be up to 9 to 12 months, but we come in 6 to 8 weeks, very quickly take a look at where the customers are, where they're going, and what would that new operating model. One example of this, Dave, is the RISE platform and the services that SAP deliver, very, very powerful. But it comes with a RACI or roles and responsibility document with over 1,000 line item that says, this is the customer responsibility, this is SAP's responsibility, these are the gaps. And most of our large customers are either already outsourced or been managed in a different way. So where we're coming and saying, well, let us help demystify this roles and responsibility. Let's build the right operating model. So you select the right services from SAP that are standard, but all the extra services, the CAS services that SAP offers. What are some of the flexible additional services from a partner like Lemongrass or another partner that you need to get you the right flexibility, the right service governance on top of the platform, and make sure you have any gaps. So you reduce your risk and you understand ahead of time what my new operating model is in the future state. So you can get ahead of that and plan it before your migration, and you can kind of go to your CIO or CFO and say, you know what, we understand what this will look like. We've run it this way for 7 to 10 years. This is very compelling with the software subscription, the cloud bundling, the SAP services. Here are the partner services, but this is what it would look like in the new world. And here are all the benefits against that. So I think there's a key things for customer to understand and how partners like us can help with that.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And there's a lot of great information in there. And to your point, right, kind of, it's about going into this with your eyes wide open, right? So, I've heard a number of customers talk about that RACI document in particular and not having a really good handle on what's covered in there, what's not covered, and finding themselves, unfortunately, it typically reveals itself during a moment of crisis where, oh, well, I thought that was covered, or I misunderstood how that was covered. And it ends up creating, some sort of, hair on fire type moment to go out and figure out how to fix the problem that now has come up.
Yeah, I mean, look, we see sales cycles that we're working together with SAP on. Is they convince the CIO, the CFO, they have kind of a business case, they're ready to move forward, and then they ask the SAP platform owner, do you know what this will look like end to end when we run in the RISE? And you get a little bit of blank stares. That's what we want to reduce. We want to reduce that complexity. We want to reduce and say, this is the blueprint. This is what it will look like. This is the skills that you need. These are the services you need from SAP. These are services you need from partner so they can go back to their CFO and say, you know what, this is the right thing. And here's kind of how what it will look like and how we can take advantage of the benefits of the platform.
Fantastic. So let's go kind of move to the next phase of this RISE journey. So now, okay, I've signed a RISE agreement and I'm implementing RISE. So what are some of the challenges that you see customers run into when it actually comes to migrating? And again, not looking so much in the green field, but more the blue field, brown field. What are the challenges that customers are going to run into as they migrate to RISE?
Yeah, I think proper planning, methodology, understanding where you're at, where you're going, and how you get there. We have something we call mobilize and design, a big, the beginning part of our migration project, a 4-week engagement where we have a methodology, we understand where all the components, all the integrations, all the current platform. Obviously, this will differ. If I'm already on ECC, I'm going S4. If I'm already on Suite on HANA, going S4. Or we have one customer that we just took live up in Canada that were already running on S4 on another provider, and they understood that the commercial construct around RISE made sense. We engaged with them and did a cloud migration of S4 from this other provider into RISE on Azure. It was about a 7-month project that was really successful. They just went live about a month ago. And I think, that planning, the methodology, working with a partner that understand that, how to reduce risk. There's also some IP that some partners like us have that can help reduce the downtime of those cutover windows, the technical downtime, which obviously will help reduce risk and the customer. But it's understanding, like you said, a little bit, am I doing a greenfield re-implementation? Am I doing a brownfield? Am I doing a selected data transition? Am I doing a blue field? What am I doing? Now, what we find very interesting, David, on these topics is if you think about the large enterprise customers that kind of right now are it's inevitable, but how do I get there? A lot of them just don't run on one single instance where it's like, is it greenfield, brownfield? A lot of our customers, without mentioning any names, they have 20 environments, they have 30 environments, they have 50 environments. Some of them might still be ECC and they might be sunsetting it. Some of them might be already Suite on HANA. Some of them might be S4. So what does all that look like? What's going on S4 on RISE? And what are some of the maybe systems that's not ready for S4, but they can still go on a RISE framework and RISE commercial under Suite on HANA, or all the connected environments? So it's not either or, it's what does it all look like for the customer next year, the following year, the next 5 years, to the point where everything's running in a RISE platform on a selected cloud with the right operating model.
Awesome. So moving into now what I'll call the third phase of the RISE journey. So I am now live on my RISE portfolio. And one of the big things that comes up constantly for IT leaders is, all right, so how are you getting value from what you've just done? I've got a new ERP system, potentially a new cloud service provider. I've got BTP in the mix. I've got business networks in the mix now. I've got a lot of new stuff. So how do I ensure that I'm delivering value to the business?
I think one of the fundamental reasons, obviously, to having kind of a predefined platform with RISE and S4 on AWS, Azure, and Google is that now I can stay current on the most recent releases of S4. And if I stay current on the one I'm migrating to or going live on, but then because we're operating through SAP with partner support, I can stay current and I can take advantage of all the new innovation that SAP is building on the core, the S4 core platform, as it relates to an industry solution for a specific customer, tech utility or retail and so forth, right? I think that's one area. The other area is as I'm going to Rise and I'm going to S4, it's a really big opportunity to kind of go down this clean core strategy of leveraging BTP for things like building apps in extensions integration and get rid of those customizations in the core, partly to lower your operating model and lower operating cost, be more agile in the platform, and build out all the innovation outside the core. So if you take that approach and you have this platform end to end, I think you can start doing really more things, more interesting things. Obviously SAP has the business network and various SaaS solutions with SuccessFactor and other components, but I can also start doing some unique things with BTP. You have the huge opportunity with DataSphere, and what is the analytics strategy? Maybe I was an old BW customer. That gives me an opportunity to maybe sunset that BW over time and start leveraging SAP Analytics Cloud with DataSphere with the integration they have with Google, AWS, and Azure as part of the RISE implementation. So I'm starting to do some interesting things and getting insight to my business through using innovation around the S4 platform, because I'm running on the most recent release. I'm running in an operating model in a construct that is kind of the latest for the customer, where I can take advantage of that innovation. So, you're getting to take advantage of Green Ledger. There's some really interesting things that SAP is doing with Joule and Run AI on the latest releases on SAP's platform. So, that's where we think there's huge opportunity, staying current, staying to the more recent releases, whereas previous to Rise or previous in the 5-7 years, we see customers falling behind on those releases. And then the second piece, like I said, is like, how do I stay more clean core and do all my innovation around leveraging the business technology platform, the BTP, and starting kind of doing things and solving problems for my business users that actually delivers value. That maybe I have a complex process with a partner that delivers a solution to end user customer, and in the past that was kind of an old process. Now we rebuild that with an app, you built on BTP, connected directly back to S4, and I solve that, and I take something that used to take 2 weeks down to a couple days. That's starting to deliver value and solving problem and making it easier for you as a customer to go deliver value back to your customers or partners, as well as being more obviously efficient internally, because you've essentially turned your staff and your operating scenario from keeping the lights on to being more innovative and doing things that improves your business.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the things that, and it's interesting, I don't hear it talked about more frequently from SAP, but by adopting that RISE model, it provides me the opportunity to reposition my resources more towards innovation and business agility than the kind of the operational maintenance fund, right? And keeping the lights on. So,
I mean, I'll give you what I think is kind of interesting. You've been in this space. I've been in this space now 15, 20 years. And, you go to Sapphire or what used to be TechEds, or you go to Insider and ASUG presentation, and some SAP technical executive or board member or sales executive presents these really cool, innovative solutions and solving problems and demos and this and this and that. If you're in this forward leaning and gotten to kind of a clean core and the latest version, you can take advantage of all those things. What I found, especially pre-pandemic, was, customers sitting at Sapphire, 30,000 people, and they're seeing these demos and really cool business processes and leveraging BTP and doing things. And then you see the face of some of the customers like, well, I got this, 7-year-old platform. How do I go from where I'm at here to that, what you're showing me on the screen? And I think with this evolution and building the right roadmap, taking advantage of S4 in RISE with a partner like us, we can get you there and get you on the current release, get you innovating on BTP, keeping a clean core. So now some of the things that SAP is showing you, it's not a 7-year lift to get there. It's actually maybe turning on a functionality and maybe doing a pilot, or doing something really unique that becomes reality for leveraging the investment that you built.
Absolutely. So, last question for you today. If there's one key point that you wanted customers to consider as they're looking at RISE, what would it be? What's kind of that lowest hanging fruit, if you will?
Well, I think we touched on a couple of things, but I reiterate, first, this thing is here. It's not going away. It's proven, with early days with mid-market and greenfield deployments, like I said, but there are large customers. I mean, and the earnings call this last week, there was a slew of large enterprise customers that Christian Klein and team announced. They previously announced that mega large customers like BMW and others are taking advantage of the RISE platform. So it's here to stay. So now let's sit down to build that roadmap, and having a plan, having a partner to kind of demystify what it means to go from where I'm at to the future with the right operating model, the right roadmap, the right kind of template and what it would look like. I think that's the huge opportunity. And, little bit biased because we obviously deliver that, but we do it in the best interest of our customers. I think the other thing that I liked with ASUG and what we can mention here is we tend to do a lot of things like customer summit and customer advisory board, where we take our customers and let them share to each other what they've done. They've gone RISE, they've gone S4, and they share to other customers. This is obviously something you guys
right in our sweet spot. Yeah.
But that's a huge opportunity to kind of build the right plan, talk to other customers, and take advantage of where SAP is going, aligning with that strategy. And I think that would enable, the whole dynamic around reducing the amount of budget and spend on keeping the lights on versus actually redirecting a lot of funds and budget towards things that are actually innovating and helping a customer move forward, deliver a platform, deliver value back to the board, to the customers, to internal stakeholders. And I think that's the really big opportunity. But it takes some planning and it takes some work. And, I think the ASUG community, other customers and partners like us are really excited about helping. And I think we're going to be busy over the next couple of years, especially with these deadlines in 2027 and the extended support in 2030. And I know you had a great session on that just recently, which I learned a lot around. Obviously, I knew the dates, but actually the details behind it. But no, we're excited, and we want to help more large enterprise customers adopt RISE on AWS, Azure, and Google together with SAP and drive success and outcomes.
Fantastic. Well, Henrik, really appreciate you giving of your time and your expertise to the community here, and I'm looking forward to maybe additional conversations in the future. But so from addressing the advantages and challenges of RISE, a lot of great stuff here. And for the viewers of this, if you have questions, please reach out to here. It's Executive Exchange at asug.com, or you can reach out to me directly at david.wascom at asug.com. Love to continue the conversation. Love to hear your thoughts, and look forward to talking to everybody again real soon.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Henrik for providing his insights around RISE with SAP. As I stated, if you have any follow-up questions or comments, please reach out to us here at executiveexchange at asug.com, or you can contact me directly at david.wascom at asug.com. Feel free to suggest topics and provide your perspectives on the things that are challenging you in your role as a technology leader. I look forward to hearing from you, and until next time, thank you for your time today.